Age of Empires 4 has finally been revealed, well, kind of. It says it's got a gameplay trailer / gameplay reveal, but let's be honest, this is not gameplay. This is in-engine, in-game graphics in a kind of cinematic. At most, this is a machinima. This is not gameplay, but it looks pretty interesting, though it has caused some controversial opinions just based on how it looks, because honestly, at first glance, it doesn't quite look like an Age of Empires game. Now, we don't know how the gameplay is gonna be exactly. This is being developed by Relic, so we don't know if it's going to have the same sort of unit controls or gameplay style as the older Age of Empires. As you can see from the trailer, just visually, it sort of kinda looks like Age of Empires. I mean, there's trebuchets and people on horses and swords, and it's, It looks rather colorful. Some would say cartoony. Not that I'm against that. It is just different because it doesn't really look like the earlier ones. And it is sort of a trend now to have this more vibrant art style because it's the kind of art style that ages better, though I know a lot of you would argue that the original Age of Empires 2 ages just fine. But looking at the trailer, we can see some things. It is obviously, so far from what we've seen, it is set in a medieval setting with wooden palisade walls, stone walls, and all of that. And we don't know what ages exactly it's gonna span from, like how far back it's gonna go or how far forward it's gonna go. But right now we're just seeing medieval. And you can see there's like wooden palisade walls, stone castle walls, and the height map seems to be a very big focus of this trailer, if you haven't noticed. There's cliffs and hills, and even when the eagle's flying in at the start, you can see that, like... Sorry, it's just thunderstorming where I am right now, and I just want to record this as quickly as possible. I do live in the tropics. But yeah, even when the eagle is flying in around at the start, it's sort of showing the topographical height map of things, and even behind the logo, it's showing like the height map of things. So the terrain seems to be very strangely emphasized in this. So I guess that's going to be a big part of the game, unless it's just style. But also you can see the stone walls and stuff seem to adjust to the height map, very much sort of like what Stronghold Warlords is doing, where the walls do go up and down the hills. And it also looks like the walls are mannable. There's people running along the walls and stuff. So that's just completely new to the Age of Empires series. And everyone's seen that comment, is this Stronghold, like Age of Stronghold the Settlers? Like, what are we actually looking at here? So this is going to it's gonna upset a lot of people. If you just, like, I can tell. Like, I haven't even really gone through the comments so far, but this is gonna upset a lot of people because it's just not the same. And I don't know whether we want the same, because, you know, Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition just released, and obviously that is the competitive esports one. So we don't really know if they're trying to make Age of Empires 4 trump Age of Empires 2. Right? They might have just thought, well, Age of Empires 2 already has that on lockdown. I guess we'll just do something different. And I don't know if it's going to work. I think a lot of more traditional fans of the Age of Empires series are gonna feel a little bit alienated. But maybe it'll have sort of the Age of Empires Online sort of effect, where it just sort of attracts a different kind of audience, and it's not necessarily bad, it's just different. And in case you didn't know, Age of Empires Online is still going. It's live. It's right now being run by fans under the name Celeste, and it's just much better because there's no microtransactions, which is another concern of any game coming out nowadays. Are there gonna be microtransactions, or are they gonna make this properly a buy and play full PC title sort of thing? You know, all of this is still up in the air. We can't really know anything. And well, basically they didn't reveal much. They basically just showed off the graphics and some hints of what buildings we might have. We can see there's a building in the background being constructed. We can see a castle, cathedral, maybe a university, a market. Like, we've got all the traditional hallmarks of buildings and the deers on the hill. You know, there's like these things that sort of say, yeah, this is still Age of Empires. It's still Age of Empires. Oh, also, just speaking of buildings, in case you missed it, there are those sort of buildings at the back of the invading army, and a siege tower. So that is important because I guess since walls are manable now, walls are also scalable with the siege tower. But yeah, if this is just set in the medieval era, then it is gonna be competing with Age of Empires 2, which, if they're trying to do something different, that seems counterintuitive, because if they're trying to be different from Age of Empires 2, then they would not set themselves in the same era as Age of Empires 2. So right now, my biggest takeaway is they're trying to be different, but not too different, and that might go horribly because they're not committing to a direction. But again, they haven't really shown off anything, so we can only guess at this point. But in my experience of watching games, when games don't commit to a direction, it generally just annoys everyone. So hopefully Age of Empires 4 is actually good, and they do actually push for a very clear distinction between Age of Empires 2 and Age of Empires 4, and it is significantly different, but still not too... Oh, I don't know. How do you do this? How do you make it different enough but not too different? It's such a tricky thing to do. And I guess, despite the exciting reveal, it's gonna be wait and see. Oh, and this is still not gameplay footage. It's not gameplay footage. Can publishers and developers stop doing this? This is not gameplay footage. This is just in-engine graphics. Like it says at the bottom there, pre-alpha gameplay. This isn't gameplay. Where's the UI? Where's the mouse cursor? Where's the controls? You know, where's the resource collection? I don't see a base being built up here. This is a cinematic with in-game graphics. And now for some little things that just sort of stand out to me, just looking closely at the trailer. There does seem to be gunpowder units because there's this thing down here that seems to be firing a gun. One thing that sort of confuses me is that there are... Well, I mean, if this is gameplay, if this is running in the gameplay engine, there seems to be a walk speed and a run speed, because you can see some units running and some units walking, and this lady down here, she's running real weird. So I don't know if that's going to be a unit control thing, or it's just for this cinematic. Also, there seems to be different levels of housing, which is, it's unclear from the trailer whether this is actually just an aged thing, a decorative building thing, but you can see there are, like, more advanced houses, like houses have been upgraded, and that's sort of implying that housing could be even like Anno, where you can upgrade housing to a higher level and stuff, but it's not really clear whether that's a gameplay mechanic or, because you can see there's tents and stuff in this video as well, and that could just be decorative. It's hard to tell. We do also see roads in this video, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's road building, but it might also mean there's road building, because, you know, Age of Empires in the campaigns at least, they tended to have roads for decorative purposes, but they weren't actually functional or anything like that. And you can see units here not exactly following the roads. So it doesn't seem like it's saying that these roads are, you know, a buildable functional thing. Also, looking at the walls, it seems at first glance that you might think that they're curved walls, but having a closer look, I think they're actually pretty straight. You've got straight angles and diagonals, and I think it just looks curved because it's following the height map, the topography of the terrain, but I don't think they're actually curved walls. I think they are still on right angles and diagonals. But has to be mentioned that it seems like besides the outside watchtowers and stuff, it does look like you can build towers directly onto the walls in a very stronghold fashion. So that is leaning more towards a stronghold side of gameplay again. The buildings and explosions look kinda cool. And also that pet peeve about fortification walls and the crenellations. I know some people are really, they're really annoyed by this, how the tall bits of the crenellation should cover the whole body, and the half body height, the waist height bits should be the low bits. So I'm sure that's gonna get to some of you, isn't it? Because basically there's no parts of the wall where these archers can take full cover. There's also some spike walls here, which we don't know, is that just built into this little cinematic, or is that actually some sort of defenses that you can build besides, you know, like wooden palisade walls or the stone walls? Maybe there's a lower tier now of just like little blockades. There is a specific point where the invading army has a bit of a cheering session, so there might be some kind of morale or just special abilities. That guy at the front seems to be a unique unit of some kind, maybe a hero unit, or maybe it's just a unit ability. And yeah, we don't know how these units are being controlled, whether they're in squads or they're individual units. It's really hard to tell from this because there are always formations in Age of Empires. Well, from Age of Empires 2 onwards, there's formations, and we don't know whether they're actually in squads or they're actually just individual units in formations, like in the new Stronghold Warlords. So it's hard. It's hard to tell. So yeah, that's basically what we've seen so far of Age of Empires 4. It's not much. But let me know, do you see something in the video that I missed? Something in the trailer? The cinematic trailer with in-game graphics? Let me know down below if you actually saw something interesting. But yeah, it's not gameplay.